Welcome to the Live Free Now show, bringing you the news, views, tips, and tools you can use to live a free, prosperous, and healthy life. So glad that you are joining us for Live Free Academy, Live Free Now, number 183. It's part of Live Free Academy, cutting through the election noise and showing there is another way. We got a great show lined up for you today. We're going to be breaking down, I'm not going to call it election coverage. By the way, Ryan Manitti's in the house. Ryan Manitti, ladies and gentlemen.
What up?
Oh, let's bring this over here.
The selection, as we refer to it.
The selection. We're going to break some of that stuff down. Not really break it down. We're mainly going to talk crap on Trump. No, we're mainly going to share, what it is to look out for. Because while everyone's all starstruck and like, oh my God, life is going to be so great now. We finally can beat the deep state. There are some things that we need to look out for. And one of them is turning the microphone volume down so it doesn't clip on my meter. And the other one is to be aware that the technocracy, the predator class, the military-industrial complex, all this stuff is going to advance on. Not much has changed in that regard. It's just going to push forward with a slightly different flavor. So I want to shout out everybody.
Orange flavor.
Orange. He's a Fanta guy. We're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about how we can create greater freedom in our lives regardless of who is in office. Again, this is Live Free Now if you're tuning in. Shout out to the folks watching on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook. Let us know where you're tuned in from. Shout out to Mary Giovanetti. We got Mary Giovanetti. We got Ryan Manitti.
Hey,
Manitti a haircut.
we need all of the vowels here today.
We got lots of vowels. The Italians like the vowels. All right. So let's go ahead and share a bit of a word about one of our sponsors. Of course, we are always excited to be sponsored by the one, the only, Above Phone. Coming at you, our good friend Hakeem Anwar. Hakeem Anwar has got this incredible phone. It's a privacy phone. I have one. I actually have two. I'm going to be rolling them out. I'm going to take it with me to Mexico City. We're both going to be speaking at Monerotopia. We're going to be joined by Douglas Tuman here in just a second, maybe 20 or 30 minutes to talk about Monerotopia, by the way. But Above Phone is great. It's degoogled. He takes all the work out of it for you and just degoogles the phone, not to mention puts in some really incredible software that's very easy to use. You can pick up a phone today. Follow the links we have in the show notes. They got the latest high-tech advanced phones, the latest and the greatest. But the big key difference is Google and Apple are not sending information about what you're doing to their central servers like it's going out of style. Again, follow the links there in the show notes if you want to learn more. They also, if you come up here to learn, they have these webinars. So go to the website, follow the link. You go to learn. They got courses. They got blogs. He does a lot of free educational work as well, in addition to offering these really great phones. Again, that's Above Phone, one of the sponsors here of the Live Free Now show. How you doing today, Ryan? What's on your mind?
Doing great. I will say that I've been listening to a lot of anti-government songs today. The election always reinvigorates my passion for anti-government ideology.
He's coming right out with it.
Yeah, so one of my favorites, Ohio by Crosby, Stills, and Nash. That's always like my... If I had a Jeep and I took off all the doors and I filled it with a bunch of Boog boys and we all got like our rifles or whatever and like just had the doors off the Jeep, then I would be blasting Ohio by Crosby, Stills, and Nash. Like I just feel like that's the quintessential song. Also,
is that what you fantasize about?
Yes.
Okay.
On a daily basis. But no,
yes,
also,
but no, he says.
Yes, but no. Die for the Government by Anti-Flag. Phenomenal song.
Is that punk?
It's punk. But it's all about, they say that you got to die for the government, but that's shit. That's what they say. So, two very great anti-government songs, and that's the spirit that I'm at today.
He's all riled up. Everybody, there's a lot of people that are loving the government today.
They love the government.
Let's break that down. Of course, if you were paying attention, Donald Trump has been chosen as the 47th president of the United States. It looked like he had a pretty overwhelming win. Let's go check up the election results. He got tons of electoral college votes, and the Republicans took control of the Senate. And additionally, it appears as though there's a chance the Republicans could maintain the House. Now, here's the challenge. I know a lot of people in our audience are completely fed up with Kamala and the deep state Dems and the DNC. But when government really runs amok, and when there's massive growth in government, in spite of what Trump says they're going to cut, and Elon Musk, Department of Government Efficiency, it remains to be seen, of course. Whenever there's a one party in control of the presidency, the House, and the Senate, it means there's no friction, there's no resistance to their agenda. So we can only hope that the Donald is going to stay true to his promise of cutting the budget, of reducing spending, getting the U.S. out of debt.
Do you believe that?
You know, of course, as I'm saying that, I can't help but smirk because he made the same promises when he was elected in 2016.
And then he printed $8 trillion.
And he increased the money supply by 40%.
Which everybody blames Joe Biden for the economic difficulties and the inflation. But when you look back at Trump, and he printed $8 trillion during his presidency, you have to wonder, did all that printing money manifest as inflation during Joe Biden's campaign? Now, we're certainly not Joe Biden supporters. Joe Biden. Or how raunchy can we get on this? Like
moderate raunch.
All right. My dad calls Kamala Camel Toe Harris. How's that for raunch?
It's pushing it.
Okay. Like a 6 or a 7 on the raunch meter?
That's about a 6 or 7. Okay. I don't know. Let us know in the chat. I mean, Ryan and I are usually pretty animated when we're hanging out, but we just want to make sure we don't offend because we got a lot of wonderful older women, retired women that are part of our community, and that's all I'm saying. But let us know in the chat. Do you want more raunch, less raunch, moderate raunch? Because, if you really want to get raunchy...
Oh! Check out Brothers Bond.
Anyway.
Brothers Bond bourbon.
Anarcha Rica says you're joking, right, John? Joking about what? Because we do joke a lot about a lot of stuff, but we're definitely not joking about Donald Trump being an authoritarian, big spending, big government, pro-Israel, anti-freedom type of guy.
What do we realistically expect to change this time around? I mean, during his first term, we had red flag gun laws, the bump stock ban. He was totally anti-gun, which is contrary to most Republicans. He printed $8 trillion. He gave $100 billion to Saudi Arabia that they used as a genocide against Yemen. Woo. What are we really expecting to change this time around? Now, I know there's all the Q people out there, and he was duped by Fauci. He was duped by Bill Barr. He was duped by everybody, apparently, which should make you question if he's being duped by everybody. Maybe he's not the brightest guy. But now there's reports about Jamie Dimon potentially being the Treasury Secretary or Larry Fink. Now, I did look into that.
Finkelstein.
And Trump did say that he is not considering either of those individuals. But it's just something interesting to look forward to, who he does actually appoint that Treasury Secretary.
That's a key position.
Right. So just some things to think about as Trump goes into his next term here.
Yeah, and we kind of went off the rails with the raunchiness, but Ryan was pointing out about the money printing and the excessive spending that ultimately led to inflation. And, we're trained in sales, Ryan and I, so as we share stuff, oftentimes what the listener or the prospect could an objection that could come up. So Trump printed it. It's like, of course, the central bank printed it. But yes, Trump inked the bills that were responsible for the spending, and the discount window is just flowing and flowing and flowing. So everybody likes to blame Biden and the Dems when in all reality, the Republican Party, including Trump's Republican Party from 2016 to 2020, they were spending like drunken sailors. And I'll take a dig at old Spirko because he took a dig at me on his show recently. I'm like, yeah, he spent more, he jacked up the debt and the money supply, and Spirit goes like, no, it was only during COVID that he did that. But then I went back and looked from 2016 to 2019. He did, in fact, spend more on average per year, increase the money supply more on average per year than Obama per year. So, look, I'll eat crow if Trump frees Ross, if Trump does this Department of Government efficiency thing. In all reality, though, I don't want government to be more efficient. I want everyone to see government for what it truly is, a predatory, parasitic institution that leeches off the productive class. And if it's leeching just a little bit less, and if it's bombing different countries, and if the technocracy's rolling out at a different speed or a different flavor, Fanta orange, it matters not to me. We're trying to create a genuinely free society here in case folks forgot about that. And a lot of people get completely blinded by the light of Trump, who they feel is like some savior, false idol nonsense. He was saved by God. God deflected the bullet into the body of some firefighter. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Anyway, but at the end of the day, maybe the economy gets better. Maybe the money gets flowing more into the building houses and making life better for people. We can all hope. Maybe the war in Ukraine ends, but there's just so much. I'm trying to be optimistic and just look forward, but at the same time, I just really worry that a lot of people are going to let their guard down. They're going to go back to sleep. They're going to be less motivated to exit and build. And then when the authoritarianism begins, they're going to be more inclined to make excuses for Trump because now their ego is tied up in a politician. Whereas many people in our freedom and truth community have been hesitant and skeptical of just about every single politician since Ron Paul. Maybe Rand Paul and Thomas Massie get a pass here and there as well. But the thing that happens whenever you stump for somebody, whenever you vote for somebody, and especially whenever you publicly promote somebody, whenever they do wrong, it's associated with your own identity and worth. And so because our egos are so fragile and weak, oftentimes it makes it hard for us to be like, oh shoot, I know I supported him and said he was going to be the cat's pajamas, but he's actually escalated the conflict and got the United States military further involved in the Middle East. Or now he's rolling out digital ID in the form of voter ID. Or now there's some hardcore authoritarianism going on. Who really knows what could happen in the future? So I just want to challenge people to, if you voted for Trump, if you went into all that dog and pony show and you want to make government slightly more tolerable, at least still be skeptical, hold their feet to the fire, and let us not forget, my friends, what we're trying to do here on the Live Free Now show, what we're trying to do with the Vote for Nobody campaign and this whole exit and build conversation is to shift the Overton window of action, especially from here's authoritarianism, here's total freedom, and this is what everybody's been debating the past year or so throughout this campaign. Should we create this much greater freedom, right? And then let's not forget as well, I heard from so many people well, I bet weren't you better off in 2016 and 2019? And even though COVID happened, I'm personally making more money than I did before, right? I have more debt than I did before, but at the same time, but I'm making more money. And in 2020, I made more money during the lockdowns than I had ever done before. So I want to encourage people to decouple their success from other people, to take responsibility for the life that they live, the money that they make, and the freedom that they experience. And you can do so through this exit and build path. So that's what we're trying to push. We're trying to shift the conversation away from relying on other people and politicians to make life better towards creating a better life ourselves. What do you think, Reggae?
One thing that's coming to mind at the moment is, I got in a conversation. I was invited to a potluck a couple of weeks ago with some Freedom Cell people, and to my surprise, most of them were Trump voters. Because, here in the Freedom Cell community, we're all about self-sufficiency, forming connections. While those people are certainly doing those things.
Those people,
they still are delegating the responsibility of fixing the nation to Donald Trump. And then when I bring up Operation Warp Speed, you know what they say? They say that it was by the grace of God that Trump and his team were able to rush that vaccine to market so that the New World Order and the deep state didn't get the true vaccine out to the market that would have killed so many more people. But what are we to do with that? They rushed a vaccine out to market that ended up killing tens of millions of people across the world. But somehow that was a better deal. I mean, if Trump was really like the white hat and all of these things, why not just roll out saline shots then? If that's the objective, why did it have to be this mRNA? Some people think that there's nanotech. Other people, and then some people are getting mad right now. There is nanotech in there, but I mean, like, who can really say, right? I know that there's these videos out there and people demonstrating that there's nanotech and all these things, but we don't officially know. Also, like graphene oxide, all these things that, let's say all of that stuff is in there. Why did that get in there and that was deployed? If this was truly a benevolent action of the Trump administration, I definitely don't put any credence to that whatsoever. I think Trump was playing the game. If you look at Trump, he's owned by Israel, just like every other U.S. president. So that's what I have to say about that.
Yeah, and the whole cube thing is on one complete crazy end of the spectrum. But I think the phenomenon that we're talking about is people making excuses for politicians that they support. This is what we need to be wary of. And I heard another argument. Somebody actually shared it because we've been railing on Trump pretty strong with our email newsletter and getting a lot of pushback. Probably got a lot of unsubscribers as well. But somebody was like, well, if it wasn't for Trump rolling out the vaccine through Operation Warp Speed, then we'd still be locked down and we'd be in all these FEMA camps and stuff. And it's like, oh, my goodness. And so I think that type of thinking is the extreme end of making excuses for politicians that you support, doing mental gymnastics in order to justify their actions that aren't in alignment with your values. And so I just want to encourage people, again, if you voted for Trump, if you're looking for slightly more tolerable authoritarianism, just make sure that you don't get blinded by the policies as they inevitably roll out. And I want to shift gears now. Doug, let me know if you did you test your audio? Everything sounded good over there? Can you hear me, Doug?
You tell me. Can you guys hear me?
I got to ask you to unmute yourself. We're going to go to you in just one sec.
Sure. Hold on.
We got to pull on the headphones here. Do you mind grabbing my headphones out of my office? They're over there. Thank you so much. We're going to go to Mr. Doug here in just a sec to talk about Monerotopia. This is a conference that's taking place in Mexico City. You can head over to Monerotopia.com. Monerotopia.com. It's going down November 14th through the 17th. I'll be speaking along with my good friend Derek Blurrows, Hakeem Anwar, Amir Taki, who's somebody I've been following for quite some time. That dude's a total badass. If you talk about Agris revolutionaries, he was actually fighting in Rojava, which is I think a territory near Syria, against terrorism. He wasn't allowed into the UK because of that. He was an early Bitcoin programmer. Really worked a lot with Cody Wilson to do Dark Wallet. This was in the early days of Bitcoin, talking about privacy. Of course, Bitcoin's kind of lost its way. Now it's like this speculative number go up kind of deal. But the radical roots and a lot of the movement, myself included, that got into Bitcoin as a means of decentralized peer-to-peer electronic cash that can't be shut down, that can't be censored. A lot of people kind of got engulfed in the whole number go up deal with BlackRock. But a lot of the tried and true were like, oh, well, I feel like Monero really embodies what the original Bitcoin ethos was all about. And it's really cool to see that this movement is still just kicking butt, rocking and rolling, in spite of all the delistings. Let me get everything squared away here, and we're going to go ahead and bring up Mr. Doug and talk about, he plays a major role in this event. He also does Monero Talk, really popular podcast about Monero. But let's go ahead and go to Mr. Doug there. Let me make sure I can hear you. How are you there, Mr. Doug?
What's going on, man? Can you hear me okay?
I can. Let me move you over here to my headphones so we don't get a double feedback loopy. And then we will chat. All right, let's go. Can you talk again for me?
What's up?
Ah, there he is.
Good morning.
Yeah, how
Good
are you?
afternoon.
What do you got going? You got a busy day, huh? You got some Starbucks?
Yeah, this is just a Starbucks mug.
Okay.
But yeah, no, I drink gratuitous all the time.
Okay.
Monero coffee. Yeah, I got a lot going on, man. I still balance the fiat day job with everything I do in Monero. So yeah, I'm not fully untethered yet. I don't know about yourself. So unfortunately, it requires some extra work, but super excited about Monerotopia. It's our third year doing this conference. We did the first one in Miami, the second one we did last year in Mexico City, and now the third one we're doing in the same venue as last year. And like you said, we got a lot of the OGs that. Oh, am I still there? I still got you. We got a
Yeah,
lot
you're
of the
good.
OGs that are most interested in crypto for purposes of decentralized. I mean, disrupting the state controlled system and creating censorship resistant, untraceable, unstoppable digital cash. That's what Monerotopia is all about. Obviously, we focus on Monero. We think that's the best tool that we currently have for those purposes. But we're open to other projects. We have other projects that are presenting there, talking about their cryptocurrency tech, their privacy tech. But yeah, as far as I'm concerned, Monero is the number one tool that we have and our best hope for having peer-to-peer, censorship-resistant, untraceable digital cash that we can live off of peer-to-peer.
Let's go. Yeah, I'm totally with you, and I agree. I know Pirate Chain was there, and of course Zcash, but Monero has great technology, and then the important thing is the network effect is there, right? So there's tons of vendors, there's tons of merchants. I wish I could say there's lots of exchanges, but there's a lot of underground type stuff going on. I know there's like Haveno, this peer-to-peer protocol. Are they going to have representation at Monerotopia?
Havino will be there. They were there last year. Woodzer is the main dev for Havino. He was there last year. He'll be there again this year. Also, we have Luke Parker. He's an absolute phenom, young guy, developer. I mean, he's a genius. So he's working on a couple of major projects. One is he's developing full chain membership proofs, which Monero will be adopting very soon. That greatly improves Monero's privacy. While Monero today is currently the best form of digital cash we have, it's always cognizant of the fact that privacy is a never-ending battle, right? It's kind of a cat and mouse game.
Oh, yeah.
So implementation of full chain membership proofs, it puts us light years ahead of the competition, and light years ahead of the chain analysis companies and anybody else that may try to gain insight into people's transactions. So he's working on that, and then he's also working on Sarai Dex, which is extremely exciting. So obviously Havino is really cool. That's kind of like that's kind of like a BISC. I don't know if you're familiar with BISC, but a Monero-based BISC. And then Sarai Dex is kind of like a Thor chain, but Monero-based. So essentially, with once Sarai Dex is live, it's going to be very, very easy for people to get in and out of Monero using other cryptos, trading in and out of liquidity pools, just like Thor chain, but Monero based, and it will be tied into apps like Cake Wallet. And we're hoping that will basically create the on ramps and off ramps that we need, decentralized versions of them. Because as you know, Monero has been essentially delisted from every major centralized exchange. So with things like Haveno and Sarai Dex, we simply won't need these centralized exchanges anymore.
Excellent. Yeah, and I should have led with this, but maybe you could introduce yourself to the audience and I always ask this question when I interview crypto folks, well, anybody in the whole freedom thing, but how did you get involved in the crypto space? Did you go straight to Monero, or was it like the classic evolution we all go through? Did you get introduced to Bitcoin first? Let us know what your background is there, and if you could share about your podcast that you do as well.
Yeah, sure, man. So I think it was the classic evolution. So I purchased my first crypto Christmas Eve 2013. It was actually Dogecoin, believe it or not. I had, heard about Bitcoin. I actually heard about Bitcoin first time was when they shut down the Silk Road. And I was like, but I didn't stop to really investigate deeply at that time. But I was like, oh, this is interesting. They were using this alternative cryptocurrency on dark markets. Now they shut down this dark market. I guess Bitcoin is just, a centralized thing that they could easily, manipulate and control, right? It was kind of my first run in with Bitcoin. Dogecoin got launched in 2013, and I was like, oh, okay, well, maybe I could just make a lot of money off of this, right? Wasn't interested in it for the tech. I thought I didn't understand that the concept of decentralized crypto at that moment. Never stopped to do the research. I bought myself like $50 worth of Dogecoin via PayPal on Reddit. I said sent somebody through PayPal. Like you would never buy crypto in this way in this day and age. And they sent me $50 worth of Dogecoin. Long story short, I woke up the next morning on Christmas Day 2013, and my Dogecoin had been stolen because I kept it on an online wallet, which is like rule number one, right? You never do that. So I was a complete noob, but what it did was it sent me down the rabbit hole, because now I was like, there's no way this cryptocurrency thing is like works like what is the invention if I could just so easily get it stolen, this, that. So it led me to read the Bitcoin white paper. I became a Bitcoin maxi pretty much overnight. And I was rooting for the price of Bitcoin to go down in 2014 as it was going down. Mount Gox happened at that time. I was cheering it on. I was like, all right, we got cheaper and cheaper Bitcoin. I have a chance to get some of this stuff. And it wasn't until I started using Bitcoin that I started like sending it to friends, using it online a little bit. This is like, in 2015, 2016, I'd send some transactions. I'd go look it up on the blockchain to see if the transaction went through. And I'm like, well, if I could look at this, can't everybody else look at this? And like the real wake up call was when like my friends were telling me like, hey, Doug, thanks for sending me like a little bit of Bitcoin. By the way, I see you have this many Bitcoin in your wallet, because I'm looking on the blockchain here. I'm like, that can't be, that is not the solution. There's no way this is what this tech is meant to be. We need something like this, but where nobody can see the transactions, nobody can see the amounts, nobody can see what's sending what to whom. And that is when I, discovered Monero. Monero was one of the earliest projects working on solving this problem. At the same time, Zcash was also working on solving this problem. And I fell down the Monero rabbit hole. I started my Monero talk show really as a way to go further down the rabbit hole and learn about it. It allowed me to interview people in the space. It allowed me to talk to people like Andreas Antonopoulos and ask them, why aren't you looking at tech like Monero? In my mind, obviously you're the genius, but when I look at Bitcoin, it's not functioning as digital cash. So I started the show for that purposes. It allowed me to talk to all these Bitcoiners and talk to Monero people, and been doing it ever since. And it's been a worthy journey. I think Monero has come a very long way. Maybe not so much in terms of price, in terms of fiat price, but in terms of raw adoption, like you were saying on the outset. It's my belief that Monero is the most used crypto for digital cash purposes.
Excellent. Yeah, and there's a lot of great wallets now. I just did a tutorial for my Live Free Academy members about the Cake Wallet, how to set up Cake Wallet on mobile. Let's actually go look at the price, because one thing that's actually pretty cool, even though it's not boosting up, number go up, is it's had some pretty stable price action for quite some time, almost as though it's like a stable coin in some ways. It's just it's continuing to trade in this channel here.
Well, it's actually got real world demand, right? People that need to make private transactions are obtaining Monero for those purposes, and then using it and spending it for those purposes. It's not very easy to ape in and speculate on it. It's not very easy to just sell a bunch of it, because it's been delisted from all these exchanges. So I think more so than any other crypto, not only is it arguably the most used in terms of people using it for things beyond speculation, but actually for transactions, I think it's also fairly valued, if not undervalued, crypto of all, because its value is based on actual usage and not speculation.
Yep, and like you said, without it being on exchanges, we think that hurts the movement. It hurts Monero, but in all reality, it makes it to where it's not speculative it's really utility. We're here for utility. We're here to engage in peer-to-peer transactions that the man can't get in the way of, that the man can't analyze or come and try to take our property. So really cool. What's your take on Roger Ver's hijacking Bitcoin and the role that it plays in neutering Bitcoin, so to speak?
I think it's a great message, right? I think there's a ton of truth to what happened with Bitcoin. I was there in the early days as well, watching it happen with the forks. And I think there's a lot of truth to the story he's telling. I mean, he in the early days, he was considered Bitcoin Jesus, right? He was one of the earliest guys to really understand the value proposition of cryptocurrency, and he was excited about it for its use case of being able to send censorship resistant digital cash payments, right? Where nobody could see who's sending what to whom. And that's why he was most excited about crypto and excited about Bitcoin. And then he saw it get co-opted. He saw, the powers that be move in on it, and they manipulated it. They did what they needed to do to allow Bitcoin to exist, but in a form where it's no longer disruptive to the state apparatus. So, I was listening to a little bit about your show on the outset, and this all ties into the Trump stuff and what we're seeing here. I voted for Trump. I do participate in elections. I ran for Congress here in 2020 in New York. So I'm a little bit of a confused individual, right? I'm a crypto anarchist. I'm very much a cypherpunk. I believe in the crypto anarchist ideal of building unstoppable tech that no government or corporation can fuck with. But I also believe that we need to, use the systems that exist to try to make progress. And I do see a Trump win as progress. It gets Ross freed, right? But I think also what we see is kind of this co-opting of Bitcoin is going to continue, right? We saw a pump of Bitcoin's price. It's no longer a threat to the status quo. That is why we continue to see Bitcoin's price go up. Now, people can argue, all right, well, isn't that a good thing? It makes people rich that have Bitcoin. Yeah, it may seem like you're going up in value in terms of fiat, but what are we really achieving at the end of the day? What do people really now have in their hands? What are they holding? They're holding this asset that's perfectly traceable, that governments can perfectly tax, that governments can perfectly surveil and see how you're spending your money, who's sending what to who, and that they can then use that to control society. So it's like, Roger really understood this early on. And I think it's a beautiful thing that he was able to get this message out through his book. It's unfortunate what he's going through now legally. He was supposed to be a speaker at Monerotopia, actually. He was one of the first to say that he wanted to participate this year. But this was before he ran into these legal troubles. So I'm hoping the best for him. And I think he's continuing to do a tremendous job to get the message out in terms of why crypto is important in the first place.
Yeah, right on. And I'm with you about Trump making things better for Israel. No, I'm just kidding. We're not voters. In fact, we ran a vote for nobody campaign, and we get a lot of people are going to vote for.
That.
Yeah,
you guys are true anarchists.
That's right.
I try to. I'm an anarchist that tries to interface with the state system.
Sure.
So. I do think it's important. We think, in some ways I completely ignore it, and I build out the parallel. I work towards building out a parallel economy outside of the system. That's what I'm doing. That's where 98% of my energy goes towards. I've created something called XMR Bazaar. It's a way for people to buy and sell goods. But I also do think, given that we are currently a part of this society, a part of this matrix, that by interacting with it and using it, we can change it towards our advantage. So I don't ignore those ways of doing things. I think it's good to build our parallel economy outside of their system. Completely ignore it, but if you're in it, try to change it.
I hear you, and we actually are building stuff in the private realm, which is like using a non-statutory trust, private membership association. We started a church, 508c1a, but I also file my 1040 every year. Maybe not forever, but it obviously makes a difference on that front. But I think you and others, but I think it's the exception that there's a lot of people that they may claim that they're building the parallel economy or the exit and build. That's the phrase that we like to use for that. But in all reality, they're just sharing stuff online. But you're actually doing the work. So we're gonna give you a pass if you're gonna vote. But you're actually doing the work. A lot of people are relying on. They're hoping the politicians will make things better for them. So kudos to you for taking responsibility and doing that work.
I ran for Congress. Sorry to interrupt. And I ran for Congress in 2022, man. In 2020, man. That took a lot of work. That all came from the heart. It wasn't as a politician. It was as somebody who wanted to disrupt the status quo, and I did it for those reasons.
In New York, yeah.
In New York, man, and I got very close to winning. In fact, I ran as a Republican in a mostly Democratic area, and actually that seat ended up flipping the year after. And now since looks like it's flipped back.
Wow.
From last election. But the reason I ran at that time is because I saw where the puck was headed. I was concerned that they were going to try to ban Monero. That's why I ran. And I'm still concerned, even with Trump in office, right? We've heard him say fantastic, beautiful things about cryptocurrency, right? Like, very, very positive on crypto, not even Bitcoin, right? He's careful about that because he doesn't want to lose. He didn't want to lose any of the votes of people that were like big, crypto people, but not Bitcoin people. But is he pro digital cash? This is what I see as the litmus test of who a true libertarian minded person is, a true pro liberty politician is. What is their stance on untraceable digital cash? What is their stance on true crypto, not Bitcoin? Where do they stand on Monero? Do they want to ban it, or do they see the value in it as a tool for a free and open society to allow people to transact freely? Or are they ultimately like, you know what, this crypto thing's great, but I'm a little concerned if we give the people this power and the ability to transact freely, we won't be able to tax them so easily. We won't be able to fight terrorism. We won't be able to, and all that stuff is just a bunch of bullshit. And really what it is it's those who are controlled by the banking system, the same people that created the Bank Secrecy Act, and those people that want to make sure that the current established banking system doesn't get disrupted. And so for me, that is the true litmus test. And I ran in 2020 because I didn't think anybody really would at the end of the day stand up for it. And I wanted to be that guy that would make that argument on the floor of Congress as to why something like Monero perfectly aligns with the ideals of what I believe this country, the United States, is supposed to stand for, what I believe it was founded upon. And unfortunately, I haven't really seen anybody out there talking about these things in those terms.
No. And of course, Trump, I pray that he frees Ross. I think that he will carry forward with that promise. But, let's also not forget as well that he was campaigning. He was originally opposed to Bitcoin, maybe saw political favor. And I know a lot of like the Libertarian Party, this woman Angela McArdle, and a lot of libertarians are so inept and they don't make any difference in the world, no impact. But this woman was like, I'm going to go play real politics, and got the ear of Donald Trump. I think she's the one that planted the seed for the free Ross thing. So I do think likely he'll hold true to that promise. Now, let me ask you this, and then Ryan's got a question here in a sec. He says that he's against CBDCs, but at the same time, in Nashville at the Bitcoin conference, they're talking about dollar-backed stable coins. And if you're familiar with the work of Whitney Webb and another guy that writes for Bitcoin Magazine, exploring the connection with Larry Fink and the tokenization of all this stuff, it's my view that the technocracy and the CBDC agenda is going to advance nonetheless. It's just going to take a different form. And much like how Tether can censor transactions, a centralized stablecoin, even if it's got the Trump seal of approval or whatever, it'll very likely just be a different form of central bank digital currencies. What are your views on that?
Yeah, 100%. I like I said, that's why I think the litmus test is something like Monero. What is their reaction to Monero? Are they gonna help Monero? Are they gonna put it on a platform, or are they gonna try to ban Monero? Are they gonna try to push it off exchanges? Because I do think you're right. Yeah, they might be anti CBDC, but are they, bringing in CBDC through other forms, through these stable coins, and even through Bitcoin itself? I effectively see Bitcoin as a completely co-opted piece of technology. It may not be a quote unquote CBDC, but if everybody is obtaining their Bitcoin through centralized exchanges, if the vast majority of people are taking their Bitcoin on centralized exchanges or with other third parties, and they're just using apps on top of it, and they're not even actually transacting Bitcoin on the base layer, and we have these chain analysis companies that are perfectly tracking and tracing all transactions. What has it then become? It's become a surveillance tool that the state can use to track and trace all transactions and perfectly surveil society, which is effectively what they'd be looking to do with the CBDC. So I would even go so far as arguing that Bitcoin itself is a tool that they're using for those purposes.
Man, well, I think there's definitely some merit to that. I'm still holding on for dear life myself. Do you have any Bitcoin position at all, or are you just all full on 100% Monero?
I'm an idealist, right? So I'm all in on the digital cash thing. I have like maybe a little just for like if people send it to me for things. But yeah, I've doubled down on my belief. I made this decision a long time ago. It's why I got into crypto in the first. It's what I thought it was, right? And so I want that form to exist and to flourish. And so the only way to do it is, like you said, is you gotta walk the walk with it. So I live off Monero as much as I can. We run all of our businesses, for example, are all run off Monero. We receive Monero payments for anything we're doing, the conference and whatnot. We pay as many people that are willing to accept it. We pay all our vendors and anybody we're dealing with. I have various Monero projects, and all my developers are paid with Monero and all that. And like I said, the XMR Bazaar thing, so that I literally built that so I personally can live off Monero, right? Like if I need to, when I buy my next car, it'll be through XMR Bazaar. When I try to hire somebody to come paint my house, I'm hoping to hire somebody as a painter through XMR Bazaar. So yeah, I have let go of Bitcoin, and I don't see it as being savable at this point. I know there are there are crypto anarchists that still exist in Bitcoin land, and I give them a lot of credit. They're some of the smartest guys in the space, and they're OGs. But unfortunately, I think the wolves. I wouldn't even say the wolves been pulled over their eyes, but they've been drinking their own Kool-Aid, right? It's really hard for them to not be affected by the fact that the number keeps going up, and it's really hard for them to ignore that. And I think the number go up is what's allowed the system to be co-opted, because it takes idealists, it takes these cypherpunks, and it drugs them in a way, right? Where now they're seeing the price goes up, they essentially get bought out, and they no longer really care about the true purpose, right? So now when design decisions are being made, when upgrades are being made to Bitcoin, the thought is, well, will this continue to make the number go up?
Yeah.
And that's really what they're using to determine how changes get made in Bitcoin. It's not, the first thought isn't, is this something that will help allow Bitcoin to be useful as a tool for untraceable digital cash payments? They're ignoring that, and they're just thinking in terms of number go up. And because of that, I just don't think Bitcoin can be saved at this point.
Yeah, number go up used to be a side benefit, right? Because of the utility that was there. The privacy utility was never really there, but at least we had, Sparrow Wallet, and we had the mixing and stuff. Yeah, it could have been there. Very well could have been there, but it wasn't allowed to be there.
All the tech, basically the major tech that Monero implemented from the early days was created by the Bitcoiners at the time. It just never got implemented. Even stealth addresses, right? The confidential transactions, right? Confidential transactions was invented by Adam Back and Greg Maxwell. That's what, hides the amounts, so you can't see what amount of transaction is being sent to who. There's nothing to even look up on the blockchain. That was meant for Bitcoin. That was supposed to be implemented in Bitcoin. Never got implemented. Why not? I mean, go read Hijacking Bitcoin and you'll find out why they never did it, right? Because it's aligned with number go up. Because, if you made the amounts, the Michael Saylors of the world weren't going to get interested in Bitcoin. The ETFs weren't going to get interested in Bitcoin if it was this tool that governments couldn't easily track and trace.
Yep. Yeah, that guy, Michael Saylor, is a total douche. Pardon my French. There's this classic Bitcoin Talk Forum post too. What is this dated? 2020, August 13th, 2020. Satoshi Nakamoto talking about all sorts of great privacy features that could have eventually been implemented. But unfortunately, it is what it is. A lot of people whine about it and are all butthurt about it. And it's like, it is what it is. This is a market. I do think because Bitcoin has the name and was the first to market and the network effect. But in all reality, if it had those privacy features, maybe it never would have given the nod by the mainstream at the end of the day. So it's all happening. It's all playing out for a reason. And we got incredible conferences. I want to hear more about the conference before we let you go. But Ryan wanted to bring something to your attention. We had our good friend and privacy expert, Hakeem Anwar. He's speaking at the event, so you're familiar with him. He came on our program. He's actually one of our sponsors of the show. And he was talking about this IRS leak that took place. You want to ask your question there, Ryan?
I was just kind of curious, in our space, there's a lot of black-pilled folks that are like, oh yeah, Monero's private for now. And, as you said, it's a never-ending battle for privacy. So those black-pilled folks, they think eventually it's going to be toppled like everything else has. But, it's my understanding, and like what John referenced with Hakeem, it's my understanding that the government has tried in the past to break Monero's encryption, but although they've been unsuccessul up to this point.
They had a bounty even at one point.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, the IRS was like offering to pay hundreds of thousands or tens of thousands of dollars if it could be cracked. But yeah, what are your thoughts on that, Mr. Doug?
Yeah. So obviously the government wants to be able to trace Monero just like all other cryptos. Monero is doing the best out of any others in terms of maintaining its privacy. Monero is from day one. It was built to be used as digital cash and constantly evolves towards that. It upgrades way more frequently than Bitcoin ever upgrades. It used to be upgrading every 6 months. And so anytime there's a realization that there needs to be some change to make sure it continues to maintain a privacy, that change is implemented. But the thing that makes me most hopeful about Monero is that it's a truly open source cryptocurrency. You got a lot of very smart, intelligent people, cypherpunk crypto anarchists that are working on this in an open source in an open source manner. And they don't have their heads in the sand in terms of what Monero is and what Monero isn't. They're very honest about that. So Monero's biggest critics are the Monero users and developers themselves. So Monero is very self-aware that there are ways for chain analysis companies to potentially gain some insight into transactions using by making probabilistic guesses with regards to Monero's ring signature component. So Monero stealth addresses, that's like kind of perfect encryption. There's really nothing you can do with that. Monero's the way Monero obfuscates its amounts, there's really nothing you can do with that. That's perfect encryption. But there's this third arm, which is the ring signatures, and that obfuscates who the sender is. And there is a way to probabilistically gain some insight into who a true sender may be if people are misusing Monero, they're using exchanges, they're sending Monero from one exchange to exchange. There are some things that people can do if they do it in a stupid, sloppy way that chain analysis companies can gain some insight into who a sender may be without gaining any other insight into a transaction. And because of that, the Monero community has been active towards making sure that's no longer the case. And that's why they're implementing full chain membership proofs. So these black pilled people that are worried that, oh no, one day it'll be traceable. I mean, you should have that worry. And the people that have that worry more than anybody else are people that actually use Monero. And that's why they're constantly fighting the good fight and upgrading and making sure they stay ahead of the curve. And they're being honest with their tech. There's a lot of like new privacy coins that come out and be like, oh, we're more private than Monero, we're this or that. It's like two devs, it's two people that are like claiming that they've invented something that could be quote unquote more private, and just
in their mom's basement.
You need large groups of people that are working on this together, very intelligent people from around the world that collaborate. You need it to be attacked by things like the IRS and chain analysis companies.
Yeah.
You need to have real attacks on it so that it can respond and grow in response to those attacks and evolve. And there's really nothing that can mimic that. Similar to Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin has been around for a very long time, and because of that, you can't mimic that. You can't recreate the fact that Bitcoin was the first, right? There's no way to create another crypto that will be the first crypto. Monero, you can think of as the first digital cash crypto, and because of that, it has first mover advantage, and it's been evolving ever since towards those purposes and gaining adoption. I'd say the most important thing to look at is those who need digital cash the most are choosing Monero. If you go on the dark markets, whether you agree with what people do on there, what they use it for, the fact is the people that have the most to lose if their transactions were to get tracked and traced are choosing to use Monero because they see that the smartest people in the game are building and developing on Monero.
Yeah, for sure. And I was actually at Ross Ulbricht's trial in New York, and back in the day, early on, we thought Bitcoin was anonymous and private, or at least we didn't really fully comprehend the understanding that the government had or these contractor companies had. And it was a big eye-opener to see just how sophisticated their blockchain forensic analysis was, even back then, not to mention it's like you said, it's an arms race, though. And let's be real. The people that are black-pilled about Monero, complaining that it's going to be cracked or it's not private or whatever, 99.9% of them are using Visa and PayPal and Venmo and Cash App. And they're just making excuses because they don't feel comfortable learning new technology. So it's a lot easier just to be like, oh, it doesn't work, it's not going to work, than to be like, I never really learned to use cryptocurrency and I struggle with my smartphone. That's what I realized in the work that I do, teaching people about crypto. There's so many limiting beliefs.
Sure. And a lot of those people that are concerned too, their concerns are because they just want to pump some other small project that is claiming to have solved some problem. And that's just complete bullshit. Like if you're looking to use some other smaller privacy coin, I mean, it has you have to consider the anonymity set of the user base itself, and that's something that can never be mimicked as well, right? So there could be some new and improved Monero that gets created that's quote unquote more private, but if only 5 people are using it, all you have to figure out is who those 5 people are, right? So that's another thing that can't be mimicked. And I will say one other thing too to the black pill people is this concept of encryption itself. This is the real breakthrough. This is what the breakthrough in cryptocurrency was. It was using this concept of encryption. It was using the power of math to empower people, to give them the ability to hold their own money digitally and send it in a secure way that can't be cracked or broken by anybody, even if it's a government or a corporation, because at the end of the day, math is math. So if we open source the building of these tools, and if we use the best encryption that we have known to man, governments can't do anything about it. Corporations can't do anything about it because, yeah, sure, they can launch nuclear missiles. They could, use hard power, but no matter how much power they have, they can't overcome the power of encryption. And encryption, the way it works is mathematically, right, is it creates an advantage to the users to where those trying to break it have no way of doing it mathematically. And it's just kind of a law of nature. So to those that are black pilled, I mean, it's just you'd have to just like kind of not believe in math at that point and not believe in the concepts of encryption.
Right on. Right on. Okay, we're coming to the end of the program, but before we go, let's talk about Monerotopia. I'm going to pull up the website here, and if you just want to give folks an overview of what to expect, tickets, are they still available? Can people watch online? And then let's talk about some of these really incredible speakers you got going.
Yeah, man. Thank you. And thanks for allowing me to come on today, and super excited to have you down there. Monerotopia, it's a 4-day conference. It's going to be jam-packed with speakers every day, from basically 8 in the morning till 7 at night. There'll be people on the main stage giving talks. There'll be talks on kind of like the philosophies of why any of this stuff is important in the first place. Right. So just from like a liberty perspective, why we should even care about tools like Monero, why we think society needs them, why society would benefit them. Talks on practically how we opt out and use them. So not just talking about what these tools are, but how do we live off of them? How do we use things like XMR Bazaar? How do we obtain Monero? Then talks on the actual tech. Like, where is Monero currently at in terms of his tech? How is it improving? How will it not be broken one day and tracked and traced? Talks on all those topics. And then talks on from other privacy tech projects that are doing interesting things that we want to bring into this circle for 2 reasons. One, because there's a lot, there's people, like we're saying, that might care about these other smaller projects. Well, let's bring them into this tent and show them Monero, right? Show them that there's already this utility that's doing these things well. And we also want to bring them into this tent so that Monero itself can learn from these projects. And if they are working on anything interesting, or if they are working on some cutting edge tech that the Monero community thinks is safe and worthy of exploration, that Monero can then look to adopt this tech. The other major component of the conference beyond the talks is the Monero accepting marketplace. So we'll have a live marketplace outside going on during the conference. A bunch of local Mexico City vendors that will be there. We hope to have the vast majority of them onboarded, ready to receive Monero. So you could come down to the conference, learn about Monero. If you're already a hardcore Monero user, you could be spending Monero. You could be buying your Christmas presents with Monero. And that's really the bulk of the conference. We're also going to have entertainment, live entertainment, people that are going to be doing performances. We have a hackathon. We have workshops. We have workshops in English, workshops in Spanish. We have a bunch of talks that will be done in Spanish as well. So yeah, that's another kind of arm of the conference. In addition to catering towards people that are already kind of in the Monero sphere, we want to bring in noobs. So if you're a local, it's super cheap to attend. Essentially, you could attend for free. You could get in for free into the venue. We would just ask you to buy a ticket if you're a local, if you want to get the swag. If you're not a local, we ask you to buy a real ticket just to help support the conference. We keep it cheap for locals because, people don't make as much money in Mexico, but we want them to have access to this. We want them to come and learn about it. But if you're coming from, the U.S., we ask you to buy a regular GA ticket, and we do have those left. The VIP tickets, we're down to maybe like 3 of those left. So those we don't have many, but yeah, we still have room for you if you want to come down and participate in the conference for sure.
Right on. Cool.
Cheap, super cheap. Like a GA ticket is less than $100 for 4 days. I mean, I think these Bitcoin conferences charge like thousands of dollars for their tickets. And I've been to these Bitcoin conferences. I will tell you from the bottom of my heart, you will learn way more at this conference than you ever will at a Bitcoin conference. And it's only $100.
Yeah, and the Monero community and the vibe, I've never been to Monerotopia, but really excited to attend. The vibe I get is it's got more of that grassroots OG feel where it was like mission driven. It wasn't corporate. It wasn't Wall Street. It wasn't Larry Fink sitting around a boardroom table. It's like, what are we going to do to change the world? And let's go spend this money. Let's buy stuff and let's make it happen. So yeah, in addition to the tickets being affordable, it's extremely affordable in Mexico City for the accommodations. The flights actually weren't too bad either. But yeah, and then there's a virtual ticket, right? So people can purchase a ticket to watch virtually if you can't make it.
Yes,
So
thank you for
that
mentioning that. Yeah, there is a virtual conference ticket. So if you can't make it down to Mexico, You can tune in virtually. You can participate in the Q&A virtually. We are charging basically the same price for that as the GA ticket in person, because we want to really push people to attend in person. But you would get a ton of value out of it virtually. You could, gain all the alpha in real time by seeing the talks over those 4 days, and you can communicate directly with the speakers by asking your questions in the chat. So there is that virtual conference ticket. I will say there's a lot of different codes that are out there for discount codes. One off the top of my head is opt out. If you want to use that, you could get 10% off. There's other codes out there. And yeah, the more people that participate, the better. If last minute, if you're some person that thinks you want to participate on a higher level in some way, email us at monerotopia@protonmail.com. We are open to, collaborating with anybody as long as their interests align, as long as they're interested in building out a peer-to-peer digital cash economy. So reach out, monerotopia@protonmail.com, if there's any way in which you want to participate. Even if you want to come and sell things for Monero, we might be able to still squeeze you in and find a spot for you to have a little stand there if you want to do something like that.
Awesome. And I just, I have a coupon code too, JohnBush24, JohnBush24. So take advantage of that coupon code. If you can't come in person, definitely check it out live. And Monero is the most revolutionary with a solid community and real world practical utility. And Douglas here is really kicking butt to help spread the word and host these incredible events. So thank you so much for joining us here today, Mr. Douglas.
Thank you, man. I look forward to hanging out with you next week. Appreciate it.
All right. Okay, yeah, we'll get to meet in person. All right, you take care.
Adios.
See ya. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. There you have it, Mr. Douglas Tuman coming at ya. Really excited to be a part of this incredible event that's taking place. Again, the website is monerotopia.com, monerotopia.com. We're coming up on the end of the program. Let me shout out everybody. The chat was kicking off there on the YouTubes. We're not monitoring the other chats, but I'm going to switch. I may switch platforms. We use this complicated, convoluted platform called Wirecast. I'll probably keep using it for our workshops that we do, but I need to simplify. The name of the game is simplification. Here's what we're using here. This is behind the scenes, friends. And it's all jacked up. This screen flashes and stuff. We got all these different shots here. Here's me and Rye Guy. Here's, if you notice, I built this nice shot there to see what's going on there. Anyway, there's a little behind-the-scenes action. They're like, we don't care, John. Let's get on with the show. Folks, I want to thank you for joining us, and shout out to Shakti coming in from Houston. We got Mary Giovanetti rocking and rolling. Yes, virtual access is available. Mary's been hanging with us the whole dang show. Hey, guys, make sure that you subscribe. Bang on that subscribe button. In fact, hit the bell notification. Look, we even got these little fancy things. Hey, hit the bell notification, my friends. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're trying to grow the channel. We've been hitting the show every single week. There was the longest time where I didn't do the show consistently. It was just like sporadic when I would have time. But now we're hitting it every single week. We got Rye Guy in the mix. Can't go wrong with Rye Guy.
Come on.
This fucking guy. You should hear, oh, we didn't do the conspiracy corner. All right, before we let you go, we're going to share, let me share a shout out to one of our sponsors real quick, guys. LiveLongerFormula.com. Our good friend Christian Yordanov, of course, he's a functional medicine expert, and he's offering a free consultation for you guys. If you're struggling with energy, fatigue, if things are just out of balance, you can always tell when something's out of whack in your system, whack in your system. He's got a free health metabolic function assessment. All right, guys, I'm signed up to do one of these assessments with him. Many of our clients are hopping on board to check this out. There's no pressure. You'll get tons of value. It's totally free. If you decide what he has to offer and the solutions he's putting forward are beneficial, you can work with him one-on-one. But if not, just take advantage of this free consult. You got nothing to lose. He does the 3-step process of assessing, addressing, and aligning. Assessing, addressing, and aligning. If you don't know what's wrong, how can you fix it? But then you got to know what's wrong, the imbalances. It's a great start, but you got to come up with the system to execute upon this. And then finally, if you work with him through his program, he'll be there to support you, hold you accountable as you implement what he helps you to put forward to really dramatically change the quality of your life. There's all sorts of great testimonials, so you know what he is doing is working for so many people. Again, there's a free metabolic function assessment. He's also got a series of different books you can check out. He's one of the sponsors of the Live Free Now show.
And to speak a little bit about the testimonials, I've mentioned this, but Christian worked with my lovely wife, Elizabeth, and her very severe eczema on her hands, and her hands completely cleared up after working with Christian after a couple of months. And, you know, the most important thing is that he makes himself super accessible to his clients. She was able to message him on this app that he has you download. You can message him and he'll get back to you right away. Hey, what about this? Should I take a look at this? What about this supplement? Should I eat this food? Oh no, we did your food allergy test and that's a no-no for you, so stay away for that for now. Just a really comprehensive and all-encompassing program that will get you better, and I've seen it with my own eyes.
Let's go. LiveLongerFormula.com is the website. LiveLongerFormula.com. All right, Mr. Ryan, what do we got? We got a segment we're doing on the program, and I hope I don't regret this. Ryan, let's hit Ryan over here with the Conspiracy Corner. We need like a theme song and stuff.
Oh,
and a little
there
intro
should be
video.
Like
Conspiracy.
There we go. All right, so for the Conspiracy Corner, for the first annual Conspiracy Corner.
The first annual? It's weekly.
The first weekly. The first weekly Conspiracy Corner, let's keep it with the election. And guys, we did a little presentation / podcast just the other week about the Bilderberg Group. Now, the Bilderberg Group is super important for this election because J.D. Vance is a Bilderberg Steering Committee member. Now,
Peter Thiel.
Well, Peter Thiel, who's supporting J.D. Vance. But J.D. Vance has attended Bilderberg meetings. So just the Bilderberg Group has its tentacles in both parties. And, it's the classic, like, hey, maybe the election is for real. And maybe our votes do count. But at the end, it doesn't matter anyway because Bilderberg had a hand in each campaign. With Eric Schmidt, the CEO of Google, in the Kamala campaign, her biggest financial backer, and Peter Thiel being Donald Trump's biggest backer, and also very close friend of J.D. Vance. So either way, Bilderberg has their hands in both campaigns, and they're going to be calling the shots. Like I mentioned, in 1991 in Baden-Baden, Germany, where Bilderberg meeting was, they do it in different spots every single year. In Baden-Baden, Bill Clinton attended in 1991. They told him, hey, you're going to be president in 1992. You got to go to Russia and clear up your past with the KGB, because apparently the KGB, they have one of the most sophisticated intelligence networks, and they're able to, completely erase a person's past. And that's what Bill Clinton did because he had a lot of pro-communist leanings during the Vietnam era. So that wouldn't have played well with the American public. So the Bilderberg Group had the foresight and the insight and the planning ability to tell Bill Clinton, hey, one, you're going to be president. So, okay, who even cares about the election? The election doesn't matter. They told him he's going to be president, and he was. And number two, they had the foresight, like, all right, now during your campaign, people are going to find these anti-communist leanings, so you got to go to Russia and deal with the KGB to wipe your record so that isn't an issue during the campaign. So we can ensure a smooth selection process. So, and there was another one that I pointed out with George H.W. Bush, who was also embroiled in the Franklin scandal, very good friend of Lawrence Keane, who was running a child pandering network out of Omaha, Nebraska, that also had ties in D.C. With this guy named Craig Spence, and they would trade back and forth. Anyway, George H.W. Bush was told by the Bilderberg Group in 1990 that he was going to have to raise taxes. And not only was he told by the Bilderberg Group, he was told specifically by David Rockefeller. David Rockefeller told him straight up, you are going to raise you're going to raise taxes on the American public so you can pay us more money and interest for the loans that we've given your government. And what did he say? Sure, boss. He did exactly that, and that's actually what cost him the 1992 election. But they had already had that all scripted out. Okay, we're going to raise taxes. The public's not going to like that, so we're going to replace him with another Bilderberg stooge, Bill Clinton. He's got to go to the KGB, get his record wiped, and then he's in. And so that's exactly the game that they play. Why I think it's a total waste of time to go to the polls and vote. Bilderberg's already calling the shots, and a lot of people were in the same headspace as me, calling it a selection, calling it all of these things, but then they make excuses. Oh, well, it was better under Trump. Was it? Trump was COVID times, that the election wasn't until, or that selection wasn't until November of 2020. We still had hardcore lockdowns and vaccines and mask mandates and all of this other BS under Trump. So let's not be fooled that Trump is going to be any different. He was selected like the rest of them. Our vote doesn't make a damn difference, and it's a poll for a reason. They're just kind of like surveying the general, the general ideology of the American populace as it is today. They don't actually care what you think. They're damn sure not going to let you pick the next leader of America, even though that really doesn't mean shit. I mean, look at Joe Biden. He wasn't doing anything. It was all people behind the scenes doing everything for him, because obviously he's incompetent at this point. So if you truly think that Trump is going to make a change and make things better, I would just issue you a strong word of caution. Even if he wanted to do that, his buddies at the Bilderberg Group would not let him do that.
Okay. And that has been the Conspiracy Corner. Yeah, with Ryan Manetti. Conspiracy. I think that could play. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in to Live Free Now. Number 183, Live Free Now, number 183. Before we let you go, we want to remind you one more sponsor. They actually have a free webinar going on today, and this webinar's got quite the reputation for being an absolute banger, as Ryan likes to call it. It's called Off-Grid Dream Life Webinar, 4 steps to make your dream of living in a Garden of Eden-style eco-village a reality. The Off-Grid Dream Life Webinar going live today. As you can see, it's coming up in 4 hours. Oh, you can't see it. It's right there. 4 hours and 44 minutes. 4 hours and 44 minutes. You can sign up today if you're ready for your off-grid dream life. Jonathan England.
Those are angel numbers, aren't they, John? 444?
444. Let's go.
Come on.
Gematria. Jumanji. Jonathan England, of course, is best known for having created the Earth Waking Village, a 5-acre eco-community in the private realm nestled in the lovely Costa Rica with 55 community members that absolutely love it. He's going to teach you how you can create your own community, or better yet, if it ends up being too ambitious, maybe it's too much work, or maybe you give it a try, they actually have spots available at their community. You don't have to make a commitment or anything. They have great opportunities for you to go down there and check it out. Many of our Live Free Academy clients have done just that. Many are still booking flights to go down. I'll be going down in March. But again, Off-Grid Dream Life webinar. You can follow the links there in the show notes. Follow the links in the show notes to register today. It's absolutely free. We hope that you will check it out.
And guys, one thing that I'll say is I highly, highly recommend attending this webinar. I actually ended up going to Costa Rica with my lovely wife.
My wife.
But she, we both had a very transformative experience, and it's absolutely awesome. You know, one thing that I hear all the time is that, you know, oh, we're just 1 year away or 2 years away from finally having our community built. And, you know, all of these people that I'm talking to in our space that are building these communities, they're all 1 or 2 years away. Well, guess what? Earth Awakening Village is already built, and it's amazing. I had a wonderful time. I wish they served more meat, but there's a lovely restaurant across the street that you can get a steak at, so that's where I was for lunchtime. But it's an absolutely wonderful experience. You guys go deep into each other's business. Everybody is very, very integrated as a community there, and it's a wonderful, wonderful experience. So I would definitely recommend checking out Jonathan's webinar tonight.
Excellent, excellent. Follow the links there in the show notes, my friends. Until next time, I hope you guys are living free, living prosperous, enjoying life. I know there's a lot of craziness going on out there. It doesn't have to be crazy in here. Live long and prosper. All right, peace and freedom, everybody. Until next time, have a good